The cold wind blew hard through the broken streets of Zarnok metal signs, creaked above closed shops. Snow covered the ground like a dirty blanket. Jace pulled his coat tighter around his body and kept walking. His boots made soft crunch sounds as he stepped on the frozen ground. He had seen many strange things on Zarnok 7 since he arrived 2 months ago, but nothing felt stranger than this night. His hands were in his pockets and his head was down. He just wanted to reach his apartment without trouble, but something made him stop. He heard a sound. It was not a machine or a drone. It was small, it was weak, it was a voice. Turned his head slowly near the trash pile by a broken lamppost. A woman sat on the ground. She looked thin. Her skin was pale blue. Her clothes were torn. She held something in her arms, a small child. Both were barefoot in the snow. Jace stepped closer. He could see the woman's lips move. He bent down a little. Then he heard it clearly. "We just want a warm meal, please." Her voice was soft. Her eyes were wide. The child in her arms didn't move much. The little girl's feet were purple from the cold. Her fingers wrapped weakly around her mother's coat. Jace looked around. The street was empty, but patrol drones were always watching. He knew the rules. Aliens like them were not welcome. Helping them was a crime. The government called it resource theft. He took a deep breath. He should walk away. He should not care, but he could not. The woman's eyes were full of pain. The child looked like she had not eaten in days. Jace took off his coat and wrapped it around the child. The woman gasped, but did not stop him. He opened his pack and took out a heat bar. He broke it in half and gave it to them. The child took a small bite. Her eyes opened wide. She ate quickly like a wild animal. The woman whispered, "Thank you, kind man. Please, we can't stay here." Yours looked around again. A red light blinked in the distance. A drone was coming. He reached out and helped the woman to her feet. The child was still in her arms. They moved quickly down the alley. Behind a locked gate was a hidden entrance, an old storage room under his apartment. He broke the lock. He opened the rusty door. They went inside. It was cold and dark, but safer than the street. He found an old blanket and wrapped it around them. The woman sat down on the floor and held her daughter close. Jace knelt beside them. "Why are you here? Where is your home?" The woman looked down. "Gone. They took everything. We ran and ran. This is the last place we could hide." The child finally spoke. Her voice was tiny. "Mama said stars will protect us." Jace felt a strange pull in his chest. He looked at the child. Her eyes were silver like moonlight. He had never seen that before. Outside, a loud sound broke the silence. Sharp mechanical voice echoed through the street. "Unauthorized movement detected. Thermal scan initiate." Jace jumped up. He moved to the door and closed it tight. He grabbed an old foil sheet from a box and covered the woman and child. The room became silent again. The scan beam moved past the door slowly. A red light flashed through the cracks inside the storage room. Jace held his breath. The woman's hand found his and squeezed it gently. The child shivered under the foil. Every second felt like forever. Then the red light faded. The scan moved on. Jace let out his breath slowly. He turned to the woman. "What is your name?" She answered, "Renara. And this is my daughter Lilith." Jace nodded. "I'm Jace. You're safe here for now, but we need a better plan." The child looked up at him, her voice soft and sleepy. "Thank you." Jace outside. The wind blew again. The drone floated away, but danger was not gone. It had only just begun. The cold morning came slowly as the gray light touched the rooftops of Zarnok. Inside the storage room, Jace sat against the wall, his back stiff from the hard floor. He had not slept much, his mind filled with questions. Across from him, Renara held her daughter close, the blanket wrapped tight around them. Both Lilith was breathing softly, asleep for the first time in who knew how long. The heat bar Jace gave her had given her enough strength to rest, but they could not stay here much longer. Jace opened a small case near the shelf. Inside were hidden food packs, some energy bars, and a few tools. He had been storing these in case he ever needed to disappear. Now someone else needed them more. He took out 2 heat bars and unwrapped one. Renara watched him closely, her eyes cautious, but not afraid. He handed the bar to her. She looked at it for a moment, then gave it to Liliv, who had woken up. The child chewed slowly, her eyes closing with each bite. Renara whispered thank you again. But her voice carried more than thanks. It held something deeper, something like fear and hope mixed together. Why are you really here? Jace asked softly. You are not just poor, you are running from something else. Renara looked down at her daughter, then at Jace. She did not speak right away, but then she reached into her cloak. She pulled out a small wrapped bundle tied with black thread. Slowly she opened it, revealing a round metal object about the size of a hand. It glowed with soft moving lights, tiny stars circling inside it, like a galaxy. Trapped in glass. What is that? Jace whispered, drawn to it. Renara answered, this is called a star map. It shows hidden paths through space. Old paths forgotten by Most. Jace leaned closer. Why do you have it? Why are you being hunted? Renara's voice dropped to almost nothing. My people kept this map for generations. We were guardians. We protected knowledge of ancient worlds. Now others want it for war, for power. Liliv touched the glowing orb, and it pulsed gently. She is connected to it, Renara said. She is the last of our line. They will never stop hunting her. Jace felt a strange energy in the room, like the air itself knew something important was happening. Suddenly the door above creaked. Jace grabbed the foil sheet and covered the glowing orb. He motioned for silence. Footsteps echoed outside on the street. Then came the sound of a machine scanning. The same drone voice spoke. Thermal scan incomplete. Recalibrating. Looked at the vent above. We have to move now, he said. I know a better place. He helped Renara and Liliv up and opened the back passage that led under the street. It was dark, narrow, and wet, but it was safe for now. As they walked, Renara whispered, why are you helping us? Jace gave no answer at first. Then he said, my brother once helped an alien family. He was taken by the patrols. I never knew what happened. I was too afraid to do anything. Now you're not afraid? Renara asked. Jace looked at Liliv. No, now I understand. The tunnel opened near an old smuggler's route under the market. Jace had used it before when he first arrived on Zarnuk. He opened a hidden grate and led them inside a dusty shelter beneath the ruins. Inside were old supplies from years past, blankets, food, a heater. It was enough to last a few days. Renara looked around, surprised. You were ready for something like this? Jace smiled. Not really. Just lucky. Liliv found a chalk stick and began to draw on the floor. She drew stars, circles, and a strange symbol that glowed faintly. Renara gasped when she saw it. That is the mark of the first path, she whispered. How does she know? I do not know, Jace said, but maybe we should find out. He placed the star map on a flat rock and tapped it. The orb floated in the air above it. The stars shifted, lines formed. Between them, one path glowed brighter than the others. This route, Renara said, it leads to a world untouched by war, a safe world, a secret place built by the old ones. Do you think we can reach it? Jace asked. Renara nodded. If we survive the hunters. Yes. Suddenly a red light blinked inside the tunnel. A tracker. They had been found. Jace grabbed his bag. We move now. He looked at Liliv. Can you walk? She nodded and took his hand without fear. Jace led the way through another side path deeper into the fado. Dark behind them, the soft hum of machines grew louder, but ahead the path began to shine. A journey had begun. The tunnel twisted like a serpent through the underground layers of Zarnuk. Walls of stone pressed close on both sides, wet with old dripping water. Jace led the way, holding a dim light in one hand while the other stayed close to his weapon. Behind him, Renara walked with Liliv in her arms, both silent, both alert. The silence was thick and heavy, filled only with the sounds of careful steps and quiet breaths. They had escaped the tracker light, but only for now. The hunters would not stop, not when they were this close. Jace knew the lower levels better than most. He had mapped them. During his first weeks here, smugglers used these tunnels long ago, but they had been forgotten by the patrols. As they moved farther down, the air grew colder. Liliv began to cough, a soft, dry sound. Renara stopped and held her tighter, whispering soft words in her own language. Jace looked back and waited. We need to rest, Jace said. There's a safe room nearby, an old station. No one uses it anymore. They turned left into a narrow passage, and came to a small metal door. Jace pushed it open with effort, the hinges grinding like a wounded animal inside. Was a dusty room with broken screens and empty shelves, but it was dry and hidden. Jace turned on a small heat coil from his pack and the room warmed slowly. Rhaenyra sat in the corner with Lilith, who leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. Her eyes were half open, watching the light from the coil. Jace sat across from them. You said this map leads to an ancient place. What kind of place is it? Rhaenyra looked at him for a long moment. My people called it the Vault of Silence, a world built before war, before greed. It holds power and peace. Only the chosen can open it. Lilith is the chosen one? Jace asked. Rhaenyra nodded slowly. She is born from the last bloodline. Her father was a protector. He died to keep the map safe. Jace leaned forward. What happens if the hunters get there first? The vault will fall. Its power will be used to destroy, not protect. Many will suffer. Lilith must reach it before they do. Just looked at the child. She seemed so small, so quiet. But her eyes glowed faintly in the low light, like stars hiding behind clouds. She reached into her coat and pulled out a small stone. It was dark and smooth, with tiny silver veins running through it. She handed it to Jace without a word as he held it. He felt a pulse, a slow heartbeat, not from the stone, but from somewhere inside him. He looked at Rhaenyra, confused. This stone belongs to the protectors. It chooses who can carry the map. It accepts you. Jace shook his head. I am not special. I am just someone who wanted to help. But the stone warmed in his hand. Lilith smiled and pointed to his neck. Jace touched his chest and pulled out an old pendant, a gift from his grandmother. It was shaped like a circle with 3 points. Rhaenyra gasped. That is the mark of the Triad. Your blood is not fully human. Jace blinked. What are you saying? Long ago, humans and stars merged for a short time. Some children were born with both fire and flesh. The protectors came from those children. Jace stared at the pendant. It had always felt strange, but now it glowed faintly. He remembered dreams, stars speaking, voices in the night. He thought they were just dreams. Lilith stood and placed her hand on the pendant. The glow became brighter. The stone and the map both responded. Jace felt something shift in his mind. A vision appeared, a tower of light, a field of stars, a door floating in space waiting to be opened. Then it faded. Jace fell back, breathing hard. What was that? The vault calling to you. Rhaenyra said you are part of its key. You and Lilith together. Before Jace could speak, a loud crack echoed through the walls. The old metal door shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. They found us, Jace said. He stood fast and grabbed his gear. Rhaenyra held Lilith close, her face calm, but her eyes sharp. Jace opened a hatch in the floor. This leads to the transport rails. We can ride the maintenance pod east to the old station. From there we leave the city. They climbed down into the dark rail tunnel. Jace activated a small pod resting on the side track. It came to life with a soft hum. All aboard. We do not stop once we start. They climbed inside. Jace at the controls, Rhaenyra and Lilith behind him. The pod launched forward. Lights blurred outside. Wind howled through cracks far behind shadows. Followed but ahead, destiny waited. Transport pod flew through the old tunnel with a soft rumble under its metal floor. Dim lights flashed past like falling stars as Jace kept his hand steady on the broken controls. He could hear the faint buzz of the old rail lines and the distant echo of something chasing them. Lilith sat between her mother and Jace, her eyes wide as she watched the walls race by. Her small hands gripped the seat tightly, but her face showed no fear. Rhaenyra looked back through the pod window. Dark shapes moved in the shadows behind them. They are close, she whispered. Jace nodded but did not slow down. This pod only has one charge left. Once it stops, there is no second ride. Where are we going? Rhaenyra asked to the surface rail station. Jace said, there's a trader there who owes me a favor. He has a desert glider hidden outside the city. If we reach him, he can help us escape. Rhaenyra held Lilith closer as the pod turned sharply. The walls shook, sparks flew for a moment. It felt like the pod might fall apart. Jace adjusted the settings, and the ride smoothed. He could feel the tension rising in his chest. This was no longer just about helping two strangers. Something bigger had started. The stone, the map, the glowing marks, the strange dreams. He remembered the vision from before. The vault calling through the stars, and Lilith's soft hand on his pendant. Somehow it was all connected. Suddenly, the pod slowed down. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber filled with debris and rusted machines. The pod rolled to a stop at the edge of a broken platform. "This is it," Jay said. The old East Station. They stepped out and walked carefully across fallen beams and old wires. The air smelled of oil and dust. Jace led them up a staircase that shook with every step. Above them, a metal door waited. Jace entered a code into the panel. It beeped, then clicked open. They stepped into a storage room behind a locked shop. Inside stood an old man with glowing eye implants. He looked up and smiled. Slowly, "I thought you were dead." Jace said, "I need your glider." The old man laughed. "You always need something." "What's in it?" From Meiachi pulled the glowing star map from his bag. The man's eyes widened. "That will do." He opened a hidden panel in the floor and pulled out a metal case. Inside was a small triangular control. "Press this when you reach the ridge. The glider will rise from the sand." Jace took it and nodded. "Come on." They moved quickly through the back alleys until they reached the city edge. The wall was tall, cold, and guarded. Jace scanned the sky. Two drones hovered far above. "We cannot go through the gate." Renara looked up. "I can carry Lilith." Jace grabbed a rope from his bag and hooked it to the old metal ladder. One by one they climbed. Wind whipped their faces. Dust stung their eyes at the top. Jace reached down and pulled Renara and Lilith up. They dropped to the sand below the other side and rolled to cover. Behind them a loud siren began to scream. "Alert, unauthorized border breach detected." Jace cursed under his breath and ran. The desert stretched far and wide. Rocks jutted from the sand like teeth. They ran behind a tall dune. Jace pressed the glider control. A low hum came from beneath the sand. Then metal arms rose from the ground, lifting a sleek silver glider. They jumped inside as the engines warmed. Jace took the seat and Renara held. Lilith tightened the back. "Go now," she said. "Go fast." Jace pushed the lever, and the glider rose with a hiss. It soared into the air. Blades of wind pushed them higher. They were flying. Liv laughed for the first time, a soft light sound that filled the air like music. Jace looked ahead at the map's glowing star trail. It showed a path through the desert to the mountains beyond. He followed it, but behind them a dark shape followed too. A black ship, fast, silent. The hunters were not giving up. Just looked at Renara. "We need to lose them." She closed her eyes and placed her hand on the map. It glowed brighter. A new path appeared. To the right, a canyon hidden by a mirage. There, she pointed. "They will not follow through that." Jace turned the glider and dove toward the canyon. Rocks sped past. The glider shook, but they kept going. Behind them, the black ship tried to follow, but the canyon was too narrow. It hit the rocks and burst into fire. The glider flew free. Jace breathed in deep. They were safe for now. Liv leaned against her mother. Renara looked at Jace and nodded. "You are not just helping us. You are one of you." As Jace did not answer, he looked at the stars and wondered what secret still waited ahead. Glider soared above endless golden sands, with only the wind whispering across its silver wings. Jace sat still at the helm, his eyes locked on the glowing trail floating above the star map beside him. Renara watched the sky as if waiting for something to appear. Lilith sat in the back, her small hands resting on the smooth metal edge, her face calm like moonlight. They had flown for hours, passing dry canyons, silent ruins and lonely rocks shaped by time. But now something changed in the air. The sky grew darker, though the sun still hung above. A strange pull filled the space around them, like a silent voice, calling without words. Jace looked down at the map. Glowing trail had curved. It now pointed to a wide, flat stone plain between the jagged mountains. No signs, no roads, just dust and forgotten silence. "There it is," Renara said softly. "The place from our oldest stories." Jace slowed the glider and landed it at the edge of the stone field. The engines went quiet. The only sound was the soft wind brushing past their ears. They stepped out. Lilith held her mother's hand as they walked across the stone. Nothing moved, no lights, no doors. But Lilith did not. Stop. She walked to the center and knelt. She placed her hand flat on the stone. The map floated beside her and spun slowly. Suddenly, the ground rumbled. A low hum rose from beneath. Lines of silver light appeared across the stone like veins awakening. From deep sleep, the vault is responding. Renara whispered. Lilith stood. The lights followed her steps as she moved forward. A large circle appeared. Then the ground opened. A stairway of light formed going downward. Jace looked at Renara. Are we ready? For this we must be, she said. There's no turning back now. They walked down the glowing stairs. The air grew cooler. Walls of crystal lined the path, each one showing stars that moved as they passed. It felt like walking through a dream. At the bottom, a giant chamber waited, a round room with a floating pillar in the center. It pulsed with soft blue light. Symbols danced across its surface in patterns no one could read. Lilith stepped forward, and the pillar reacted. The room brightened. The symbols stopped and formed a single image, a door in space surrounded by rings of fire. This is the vault, Renara said. Not just a place, but a key to something greater. A gateway to lost knowledge. Je stared at the pillar. What do we do now? Lilith looked at him and reached out her hand. Jace hesitated, then placed his hand in hers. A beam of light shot upward from the floor. It surrounded them both. Jace felt his heart slow. He saw stars spinning, galaxies forming, memories that were not his voices speaking a language he did not understand. Then everything went quiet. He stood in a different place. A white field under a silver sky. Lilith stood beside him. A tall figure waited ahead. Its body made of light and shape without form. You have come, the figure said. You carry the mark of the protector and the blood of the guide. The child carries the flame of the old ones. Together you may open the vault of worlds. Why? Jace asked. Because you chose mercy when others chose fear, the figure said. Because you saw, not with your eyes but with your soul. The figure raised its arm. A star appeared. Then everything faded. Jace blinked. He was back in the chamber. Lilith was still holding his hand. The chamber filled with echoes as the hunter stepped down the glowing stairs, his armor dark as night, his weapon charged with red light that pulsed like a warning. Jace stood firm between him and the girls, his fingers tight around the old blaster. At his side, Renara held Lilith close, one hand behind the child's head, her other hand gripping a silver shard hidden in her sleeve. Lilith's eyes were wide, not with fear, but something deeper, something quiet and waiting. You cannot stop me, the hunter said. You think one human and two broken aliens can stand against the command of the Black Order? Jace said nothing. He lifted the blaster slowly, his eyes locked with the hunter's visor. Then he fired. The shot hit the chestplate and sparked, but the hunter did not fall. He roared and rushed forward, his boot crashing against the stone floor with power in every step. Jace rolled to the side as a red beam scorched the air. Where he had stood, he fired again, aiming for the joints. The hunter growled, but kept coming. Jace jumped behind a glowing console, using it as cover. Renara moved. She pulled the shard from her sleeve and threw it at the hunter. It hit his shoulder and dug deep. He screamed and turned toward her. Lilith stepped away from her mother. She walked toward the center pillar. Her small hands reached out and touched the floating symbols. The pillar pulsed. The chamber lights flickered. Machines around the room began to hum. One opened and revealed a long silver staff covered in old runes. Another projected a shield of blue light around Lilith. Hunter fired at her. The beam hit the shield and bounced away. Lilith did not flinch. Jace ran toward the staff and grabbed it. It felt warm and heavy, but balanced. He swung it as the hunter charged again. The staff met the hunter's blade. A wave of light exploded from the point of contact. The hunter stumbled back. Jace pressed forward, striking again. This time the staff glowed with each hit, as if Renara helped Lilith reach the center console. The girl placed the glowing map into the heart of the pillar. A new light filled the room, white and gold. Pure and powerful. No, the hunter shouted. You do not understand what you are doing. That vault holds more than knowledge. It holds power, enough to change the galaxy. It belongs to the strong, not the weak. Lilith spoke, her voice soft but firm. Power does not belong. It is given to protect, not to hurt. The pillar rose. A ring of circled the room. Then a hidden door opened behind the console, a portal swirling with silver and stars. The true Voltrinara gasped. It was real all along. Jace turned to face the hunter again. One last hit. The staff struck the center of the hunter's chest. The armor cracked. The hunter fell to one knee. Liliv stepped forward and touched his helmet. Her fingers glowed. Images flowed into the hunter's mind. Stars, peace, pain, forgiveness. He lowered his weapon. He looked at her as if seeing her for the first time. I remember. Now he said, the vault showed me before I became this. Before I followed the wrong path. Jace stood beside Liliv. Then do what is right now. The hunter nodded slowly. He placed his weapon on the ground. He backed away and knelt. Liliv walked through the portal. Rhaenyra followed. Jace looked back at the hunter once more, then stepped inside. Inside the vault was a garden of stars, floating islands of memory, machines that built peace, knowledge written in light. The vault accepted them. Liliv placed her hand on a console. A voice filled the space. Welcome, child of two worlds. Welcome, protector. Your journey is only the beginning. Jace watched as the vault created a new star map, one filled with paths to lost places, worlds forgotten by war, worlds ready to be healed. He looked at Rhaenyra. This is what we came for. She smiled, tears in her eyes. No, this is more than we ever dreamed. Medlev stood on a platform that rose above them. Light wrapped around her like a soft cloak. The vault had chosen her as its voice, its guide. The hunter stood in the entrance watching. He did not step in, but he did not leave either. He bowed his head in silence. Outside, the stars shifted. The storm had passed. A new dawn had begun. Jace took Rhaenyra's hand. Together they stepped into the heart of the vault. Not just survivors, not just protectors, but builders of the future. The stars above Zarnok were brighter than ever before, as if the sky itself had been reborn. The vault had changed everything, not just in space, but in the hearts of those who had touched its light. The storm of war had been quieted. The hunger for power had been broken, and something new had begun to grow. Jace stepped out of the desert shuttle, his boots landing on solid ground once again. But this time it was not the cold stone of the city or the sand of the wasteland. It was soil, rich and warm and alive. The vault had given them more than knowledge. It had given them the seed of restoration. He looked around the new settlement built on the far edge of Zarnok's broken lands. Simple homes lined the hills. Aliens and humans worked together. Children ran through the streets chasing each other with laughter in their steps. No more patrols, no more fear, only community and peace. A wooden sign hung above a small building. Near the center, the warm table. The letters were carved by hand, the paint chipped with time, but the meaning remained strong. Jace stepped inside, and the scent of fresh bread and stew welcomed him. Rhaenyra stood behind the counter wearing an apron, her face soft with a smile. Liliv sat by the window, drawing stars on a paper with a golden pen that never ran dry. She looked up and waved. You came back, Liliv said with a grin. You promised you would. Jace walked over and placed a small bag of supplies on the table. Some trade goods, some old tools, and a few rare herbs from beyond the ridge. He smiled and nodded. I always keep my promises. Rhaenyra brought a bowl of stew and placed it in front of him. Sit, eat. You look tired. Jace took the spoon and tasted the food, warm, rich, full of flavor. More than a meal, it was comfort. It was home. Do you remember? Jace asked. The first time we met. You and Liliv in the snow. No shoes, no food, just a plea. Rhaenyra nodded. I remember every word. We just want a warm meal, please. And now Jace looked around. Now you feed others. Rhaenyra glanced out the window where a line had started to form. A young alien mother held her child close. A tall human helped carry baskets for an old man with 6 eyes, and a group of kids waited for their evening treat. We feed anyone who walks through that door, she said. No questions, no judgment, just warmth. Liliv stood and walked over. She held a small wooden box in her hands. She opened it and showed Jace what was inside. Tiny stones, each one shaped like a planet or a star. She had made them with her own hands, one for every person they had helped. This one is yours, she said, holding a blue one with a swirl of gold. You gave us hope when we had nothing. You are the first star. Jace felt something In his chest, not pride, not sadness, something deeper. A quiet joy that needed no words. He placed the stone in his pocket and stood. The door opened again and cold wind slipped inside. A small alien family entered. Thin, shivering, the mother held out her hand. Please. Just a warm meal. Leave walked over and took the child's hand. Come with me. We have stew and warm bread. And a fire to sit near. Jace watched as the child's eyes lit up, just like Lilith's had so long ago. He stepped outside and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there the vault still waited, still watching, still guiding. But here on this small part of Zarnok, something greater was happening. People were healing, walls were falling, and strangers were becoming familiar. Inara joined him outside, wiping her hands on her apron. You could stay longer this time, I will, Jace said. For a while he turned and saw the settlement glowing in the evening light. Lamps lit the paths, music played softly from somewhere, and laughter echoed like songbirds in the trees. For all their strength, for all their history, for all their fire, humans had one power greater than any weapon. The power to care, to protect, to build when others only destroyed, to offer a warm meal when the world turned cold. Just smiled and stepped back inside. The door closed, the warmth returned, and the story continued. Not in battles, not in glory, but in kindness, the kind that changes everything.